where you find that they look at the same.
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
Welcome back. You're still watching Trust TV's Daybreak right here. And right now it's time for us to take a look at the front pages of the newspapers to find out what's making the news this morning. We're going to start with the Daily Trust newspaper. And of course, the major story on the front page is on the governorship election. Why we postpone governorship elections? That's according to INEC. And we have riders here that says Commission gets nod to reconfigure BVAS. Tinubu Atiku granted access to election materials, and Buhari arrives Daura for polls. That is on page 4 of the Daily Trust. Moving down the front page there, bandits kill 6, abduct many in fresh Niger attack. It seems like bandits are making a comeback. Details of that are on page 6. Presidential poll aftermath. NSCIA cautions against incitement. You can find details on page 7. And another sad story here, 4-year-old boy's genitals, tongue, eyes removed in Abuja. You can find details of that on page 16. At the very bottom of the front page, Naira, CBN's non-compliance with Supreme Court verdict contemptuous. That is according to Yadudu and Falono. And highest disregard for rule of law and presidency silent. You can find details of that on page 4. Moving towards the top of the front page there, Atiku charges Gazama, 18 other sons to reclaim a mandate, meets IBB. And NCAA moves to review civil aviation regulations 8 years after. And finally, on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper, NAF airstrike kills pregnant woman, 2 teens in Kaduna. You can find details of that on page 5. Now, these are the major stories on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
And we move on to the Nation newspaper this morning, and the major story there is INEC shift governorship assembly polls by 1 week. And we have there the result of a poll, which is tipping Sanwo-Olu to retain his seat. I'm not sure what these ratings are, but I see poor, average, good, and excellent. To other stories, Umahi, why Lagosians should vote Sanwo-Olu. And to other stories, President-elect inaugurate legal team, defend my mandate. Tinubu hails Masha's peak as G24 director. Don't truncate power transition, NCIA warns. And Gazama leads Atiku legal team as fire raises shops in Lagos, Kanu, hostel in Anambra. These are the major stories on the front page of the Nation newspaper.
All right, next we'll take a look at the Punch newspaper. The major story is talking about the governorship election, which we've actually seen already. And, well, let's take a look at the riders supporting that story. The commission says despite ruling, 176,000 machines can't be reconfigured before Saturday, and election materials distribution disrupted in Delta, Oshun, Bayelsa, Cross River, others. And other stories, Sanwo-Olu orders probe as Buhari sympathizes with market fire victims. That is talking about the fire incident in Lagos. Niger, terrorists kill 5 villagers, abduct 53. That is on page 4. And roadblock, robbers attack punchman as soldiers extort Ogun motorists. That is a story that can be found on pages 4 and 5. Dogwa left out as reps-elect get certificates of return is another story on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Moving towards the top of the front page there, above the masthead, Naira, Buhari can be prosecuted after May 29th, says SAN. That is on page 7. Companies, consumers' taxes rise by 42%. That is according to the MBS. Long field queues ground Abuja neighboring states, and that is on page 23. And right below the masthead there, National Assembly female membership drops as 11 lose re-election. That is on page 8. Now, these are the major stories on the front page of the Punch newspaper.
Moving on to First News newspaper this morning, this time with INEC. INEC shift governorship elections to March 18th to enable commissions reconfigure BVAS used for February 25th presidential National Assembly elections. And to other stories there, elections, Tinubu, Atiku, Obi hire 51 sons for legal fireworks. It's beginning to look like presidential election contest is an exclusive preserve of senior advocates of Nigeria. Peter Obi attends court sitting over Beaver's case. Buhari heads straight to Daura from Qatar. And INEC declare no winner in Dogua's constituency, fixes rerun in 13 polling units. I have provided jobs and empowerment for all NSAS victims in Lagos. Atiku hires 19 sons to challenge Tinubu's victory. And International Women's Day promote gender equality in FCT. In ICT, Catamaran deck pirates urge Federal Government, National Assembly. And these are the major stories on the front page of First News newspaper this morning.
All right, next we'll take a look at News Direct, talking about the governorship elections, but a different spin on it, saying confusion as litigations, technical gaps force postponement of elections. And riders here that says court ruling came too late to perfect reconfiguration, according to INEC. Postpones election to March 18th, adjust campaign schedule till midnight, Thursday, March 16th. Fix bugs, glitches in BVAS machines, other election technology, eliminate corrupt staff, that is the MBA to INEC, and INEC issues a certificate to return to reps elect. Going towards the bottom of the front page there, Ogun Guba, Atiku's polling agent, Mo Kashamu, Adebutu loyalists declare support for Governor Abiodun APC. At the very bottom of the front page there, despite Supreme Court order, Nigerians reject old Naira notes, await CBN directive. Police arraign Atiku rep's ally arrested with $498,100 in Port Harcourt. And Atiku gathers 17 sands to fight Tinubu. At the very top of the front page there, Adelike's 100-day in office uneventful, says Oshun APC. NCDMB BOL partner on oil gas park funds scheme. And statutory rape, prophet allegedly assaults visually impaired minor in Lagos. Now, these are the major stories on the front page of Nigerian News Direct.
And moving on to Blueprint, we will now be sprinting through most of the headlines as it appears. They seem to be dwelling on the same issue. Governor Chief House of Assembly delayed court rulings on PVAS forces poll shift. INEC pleads for understanding. To other stories, bandit kill pregnant woman, 4 others adopt 50 in Kano. Slay 6 vigilante at Brini Gwari checkpoint. And those are some massive loss there as a result of the attack. Buhari, Lawan, Tinubu, Bello, others hail Osibanjo at 66. Masked men kill security guard, burn Lagos spare parts market. EcoBank celebrate women assures of equal treatment at workplace. And International Women's Day tallying count losses over women's exclusion from digital economy. These are the major stories on the front page of Blueprint newspaper. We now have joining us in the studio, as always, the editor-in-chief, Deadline newspaper, Marlon Nasrallah. It's a pleasure to have you join us this morning.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
Yeah. Interesting development in our polity. We're all very tired from the presidential elections, but somehow we were hoping we could just flow with the tide and get this governorship done with, and maybe begin to sort of get our lives back, because everything seemed to have taken a back seat and waiting for these elections to happen. How did you react to the news of the postponement of the governorship election?
Well, personally, to me, it didn't come as a surprise. So many people had, anticipated that. That from what INEC said initially, that they will require some, is it 5 or between 5 and a week, I think, to be able to do this reconfiguration so that the beavers can be redeployed again for the governorship and state assembly elections. But you can see, so many people are not happy, especially those who have, decided to do some things on that particular date that the elections will now hold. So many weddings, so many events, now have to be cancelled because of this. And then in another way, if you look at it, it's an opportunity for those who think they still have some, engagements to do with the electorate, to be able to do that. And then there are also some people who have already sapped their energy, and they're just looking for ways to conclude this so that, like you said, they can get their lives back. But we are also heading towards the final transition. So immediately after the election, all our focus will now be on the transition proper, when the president will be handing over to the president-elect, because you have like 80 or even less days to go.
Oh, we're still talking about the postponement of the election. A lot of people are actually looking at the fact that INEC is creating a logistical problem for itself by having to recall all the BVAS machines back to the headquarters, reconfigure, and then redeploy them again. So isn't there a way to make this process a bit less painful?
Well, it has to do with trust, like we keep saying. Probably they don't believe that any outsider, or they shouldn't allow, people without the necessary mandate to be able to do that. So they want to control it, so that already people are saying the data that is stored in there may be tampered with, and maybe they want to do away with all that speculation, assumptions, and what have you. So because of that, they think it's better for them to do the recalling, do the reconfiguration, and then redeploy again, because like you said, this involves money, and if we can do it without spending money unnecessarily, honestly, even the system will be better for it. But like I said, it has to do with trust. So many people don't believe that the moment you start, doing the reconfiguration outside the INEC headquarters, probably some outsiders may have one or two opportunities to do one or two things that may end up compromising, the BVAS.
Interesting. So much knock. I mean, to imagine that the president has even flown to Daura already, all that advance party, all that presidential jets, and the workers. The presidential jet is like moving the presidency from point to point. I know of a couple of friends who are participating in the state elections that had already taken off, to go and be with their people full time. Now that is going to be extended. I can begin to imagine.
I have to re-strategize.
Yes, if the pockets have mouths, they would have been complaining by now. But we'll let that be and look at other issues on the polity. It was International Women's Day yesterday. Pauline Talen is complaining that not enough women are playing in the digital economic space. The Punch newspaper today is leading with a report that membership of National Assembly, female membership has dropped as much as 11 women are not returning. And we saw all the porn and pageantry that escorts the celebration of the International Women's Day. Is that all we should be doing as a country? Shouldn't we be seeing benchmarks? These women coming out and saying, by this time next year, we want to see that we have produced 2 CEOs or one. I mean, some modest target for themselves as a way of moving forward, rather than use these opportunities to always lament about how women have been left behind, or better still, how they can come together and use the women power. They have the largest voting bloc to begin to make things happen. What did you see in this IWD's celebration that is any different from what we have seen in the time past?
Well, it has become a ritual, that's something that you do year in, year out. But honestly, we need to move ahead. We are now talking about the fact that 11 women will not be going back to the National Assembly. And if you look at the number of the women on the president's cabinet, I think there are about 6 or so out of about 40 or so. And then, so the women should not allow all this to just remain a ritual. Like you said, it will be good if they can, come up with, benchmarks, and then institutionally, we should also help them. We should come up with laws, with policies that can encourage women participation, not only in politics, in technology and what have you, but in all other aspects. Women now play football. They do virtually everything that, men can do. And from what we have seen, so many women have made their marks. Like we talk about the Okonjo Iwealas, we talk about the Dora Okunyilis, so many of them who have made their marks in leadership positions. So it's not something that we should be treating as if, no, if a man is not there to be able to do it, then we shouldn't give women the opportunity. And it shouldn't also be, it's only when men cannot be found to do certain things that will now start going scouting for women. We should make it, like a habit, a policy, so that women can now be encouraged, to come out and like nothing stops us from maybe coming up with some statutory seats in the National Assembly to say that, okay, these seats should be reserved for women. And then we look at the best way to be able to find a way of filling all those positions. But we shouldn't allow it to become just a yearly ritual where the president will issue his statement and then the women will come out to lament, and then we like update our statuses, and honestly we should go beyond that.
Well, just before we move on from that, there's something I'd like to touch on. A lot of people are actually of the opinion that the women themselves are not helping themselves. For example, now you have a state whereby there's a woman candidate vying for governorship. What stops every woman that is there to say, okay, I'm not voting along party lines now. This is a woman, let me come out and support this woman to get this, so that at least women can get a foothold in Nigerian politics. What stops women from doing something like that? That is the argument.
Well, it's also about interest. Like if I have a husband that is also, running for governorship, you may not expect me to maybe go along with the women agenda. But like you said, if the women, just half of them, if they can concentrate their energy, and support one of them, honestly, nothing stops them from getting the seat. But as we are currently experiencing, all the women, they are divided. Some are even thinking, okay, this is not even the right time for a woman to become governor. Like so many people keep referring to what the First Lady said, that probably women should be encouraged to become deputy governors, so that maybe in the next 2-3 years they will now have like a better opportunity to become governors. But honestly, that shouldn't be used as a reference, because like I said, we have not like seen a woman, elected as a governor in Nigeria for us to even start assessing, to start saying, okay, whether women can do it or they cannot do it. Because right now, so many men have been doing it. Most of them have ended up with the EFCC, as complete failures. They have not been able to do anything. And so nothing should stop us from trying to see what a woman can do, given the opportunity.
Interesting developments there. You said something that is quite instructive, which is finding a way to situate these things or codify them in some kind of law. I know that when Sanusi was CBN governor, there was some subtle instruction to the banks to have at least 25% of their board constituted as women. Long after he left, the women became chairmen of some major banks in Nigeria. First Bank, Access Bank, now women managing directors in FCMB, in GTB, in Fidelity Bank, and that's in Unity Bank, and that's some way to go. Perhaps even in the constitution of government boards for universities and polytechnics and colleges of education and all these parastatals and commission, we should begin to see a reflection based on competence, by the way, not just the fact that they are women. We saw yesterday another terrorist attack in Niger. It appears they also went for election duties as everybody else.
And now they have
and then suddenly
service.
The kidnappings are back, the shellings and the killing of innocent Nigerians are back. Everything we fed that sort of went quiet, the fuel scarcity is back on the streets of Abuja. Everything that took a backseat sort of to allow the election hosts are now rearing their head in the most ugly manner. 50 people adopted. What's your impression of what had happened?
You know, like when they came up with the Naira redesign policy, they said one of the reasons, you know, is to stop all these bandits from herding people into the bush and what have you. But here we are, you know, like we said earlier, the criminals, you know, they are also re-strategizing. You know, if you stop them from one thing, they try to see how they can survive, because right now we are not having enough security agents to be able to man, you know, all the places that we need to man. And then probably they have also found a way of going beyond the hurdles, you know, placed on them by the Naira policy, because some of them will ask you to, instead of bringing money, to bring new motorcycles. Some will tell you to do. There are so many things that they are telling us to do, and then we are not, like, you know, getting all the necessary the way we should react. We have not been able to do that, and then, like you said, maybe it's because they also took part in the election. Who knows? The fuel queues, so many things. We are not like, we keep going in a cycle. Yesterday I saw the number of vehicles I saw on queue. Honestly, I couldn't even say anything, because this is Abuja. If something like this can happen in Abuja, then what about other states? And right now, it has become like normal, you know, for filling stations to be selling at above 300 naira. And then even at that, to get the fuel has become very difficult.
Somebody was joking yesterday. He said, I queued for 1 hour to pay at the POS, then I queued extra 2 hours
to get the fuel.
Get the fuel at 320 naira.
And that's one thing they keep doing. You know, even at the filling stations, they will say, okay, those with cash, you know, should follow this queue, and then those because right now the electronic payment platforms are not functioning the way they should. And despite the fact that the court has ruled, you know, the Supreme Court has said that the old 500 naira and 1,000 naira notes should remain legal tender until the end of the year. The CBN, the presidency, and all the relevant stakeholders, they are finding it difficult to comply. And you can see what a lawyer was even saying, that this is something that the president can be tried over once he is done with his tenure, because right now he has immunity. By May 29, that immunity will no longer be there. So honestly, I think the best is for us to comply. The Supreme Court has ruled. Nothing should stop us from complying, because so many banks, so many Nigerians right now are not like transacting with the old currency, because there is nothing from the relevant stakeholders to say, okay, do this or don't do it. And you know, people are okay, because as far as I am concerned, they shouldn't start collecting money that they cannot be able to salvage at the end of the day.
All right, so let's just circle back to initially what brought us to this conversation. We're talking about the issue of security and the attack in Niger. A few months back, there was this serious ruckus that was created when there was an issue of friendly fire concerning some herders and their cattle that were bombed and whatnot. We heard the cries for investigations, for people, for heads to roll. Well, up to now, we haven't really heard anything. And now we're getting another report that a Nigeria Air Force strike kills a pregnant woman and some teens in some parts of Kaduna. Is this turning into a trend? And are we expecting anything different from this?
Well, maybe the fact that we have not succeeded in handling the last one that happened, you know, in a way that Nigerians will see that, yes, we are serious about ending all this, is it friendly fire, or do you even... So, and you know the reality in Nigeria, you know, we live side by side with these criminals. So sometimes without the right intelligence, you know, without the right survey and what have you, you may end up dropping bombs where you shouldn't. And here we are talking about a pregnant woman, and even the people. Sometimes we find it difficult to even tell the authorities about suspicious, you know, questionable characters that are living among us. And anytime the security agents will come for them, you know, will end up being like collateral damage. So the Air Force, the security agents should find a way, you know, of lessening all these incidents of friendly fire and air strikes where they shouldn't happen and all that. And then the ones that happened, we should try and show the people, you know, why they happened and what we did to stop something like that from happening again, recurring again in the future.
All right, so quite unfortunate there. And of course,
Unfortunate indeed. We have exhausted quite a number of issues, but very quickly in 30 seconds, we saw the Vice President turn 66 on his way out. What a Vice President he has been, some people would say. We saw eulogies coming from across the divide about his persona. You just quickly give us your own thoughts in 30 seconds of the Vice President.
Well, I'm actually happy that he decided to celebrate or to mark the event with, you know, by spending some time with children that were orphaned as a result of the insurgency. And, you know, he has, like, placed himself in a very good stead in Nigeria because he has conducted himself very well. And at 66, I think he still has, you know,
His life ahead of
him. And we are talking about 70-year-olds, you know, and even above, still
vying for presidency.
So I think this will not be the end. We'll hear about the Vice President when it comes to leadership and other things of responsibility.
Interesting there, and this is us from Trust TV also wishing him the best of health and what life has to offer beyond 66. This is the much we can take now. This is where we draw the curtains on the newspaper review. We'll see you at the top of the hour where we hope to serve you